right, ladies and gentlemen, with the two gentlemen that just walked in, we now have a quorum. We have two pretty quick matters for first readers today on our calendar, and then we have three matters for vote to come before the committee. The chair recognizes one of the chair people of our appropriations, who I know has got another meeting waiting on him, Representative Butler, to give us a brief explanation of your House Resolution 341, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, what this bill does, actually, I don't say simple, it's overused, but it is. I'm sure most everybody here is familiar with the concept that most cities and counties have 1 cent sales tax that can be used for M&O, and it rolls back a little bit on the property tax. And then also you have the SPLOST, which is for capital projects. School systems have the SPLOST, which is used for capital projects, but they do not have the 1 cent for M&O. What this proposes is a constitutional amendment that will allow the voters in each individual county, if they choose to vote to do the 1 cent for education spending, which would be a dollar for dollar rollback on their property tax. That way you kind of spread around the cost of funding schools just the same way you do the counties and cities. That's basically it.
Okay, we're going to assign that to our sales tax subcommittee, and you can contact chairs Martin Scott, Don Parsons, or David Knight. Either of those three gentlemen will be happy to arrange a hearing for you at your convenience. I know you've got your plate full, especially over the next week or so, but they'll they'll try to accommodate you whenever you tell them you can have the time.
Well, I mean, there's no urgency on this one here. As you know, I mean, it is a constitutional amendment, so I mean, I know we won't take it up this year. It's probably a measure for next year anyway, so just come in and do my.
Okay, glad to have you. Thank you very much. We're honored to have the chair of ethics with us today, Chairman Wilkerson. How about telling this committee about your House Bill 405 as briefly as you possibly can? Either place. That mic is live as well, wherever you're most comfortable. Supposed to. It is
it now?
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is House Bill 405, and if you'll notice, it's bipartisan support, sponsored by many folks on both sides of the aisle. And basically what we're looking to do is to take, if stimulus money does come in and we're able to use it in this particular area, we would allow any taxpayer to use tax credits for energy-saving devices, energy and water-saving devices, and be able to transfer those to contractors who would install the equipment and so forth. And, Mr. Chairman, as I discussed with you, this is a bill that has brought together the environmental community, the chambers of commerce, many groups. There is the tax credit transfer. Chairman Harbin thinks he has another system that may be more efficient, but what we're asking the committee is to at least get this bill to subcommittee so that we do have two vehicles available.
Well, we can certainly do that. We can honor that request, and we'll do that right now. As a matter of fact, we'll assign that to our income tax subcommittee, and you can contact chairs Mills, Peak, or Knight, either of those three gentlemen, and they will make sure and accommodate you with a hearing at your first convenient time.
And, Mr. Chairman, it would certainly help someone who owned, for example, restaurants around the state of Georgia who wanted to upgrade any air conditioning.
Well, if they already have more money than the show dog could jump over, they don't really care. So,
well, they can spend it on golf. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. We're honored, truly honored today. We're on second readers. These are matters that I'm going to ask the committee to decide on today, and we're honored to have our Speaker Pro Tem. And Mr. Speaker, if we could invite you to the microphone, and we're distributing the bill now as we speak. It is House Bill what? House Bill 349. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I guess it is live here, right?
It's supposed to be.
It's red.
It's on here.
Hello, hello. I did.
Okay, there you go. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here today on House Bill 349. It's a proposition not unlike one this committee has seen and the General Assembly has seen on numerous occasions. It gives a sales tax exemption on the construction materials for the development of the new Civil and Human Rights Museum that is planned to be constructed around Centennial Park. As I'm sure you're well aware, we've had tremendous gifts to this city in the aquarium, the World of Coke, and now the Rights Museum in getting this similar exemption. It's a $125 million construction project. It's going to have some 100,000 square feet of building. The people around the world have known Atlanta, Georgia as the birthplace to the civil rights movement, and rightfully so. It is the birthplace, and I think that the location of the center on Centennial Park will be just yet another tremendous asset to not just the city of Atlanta, but the state of Georgia. The aquarium and the World of Coke have proven to draw in visitors to stay another night, another 2 nights, and truly make our city a destination location. There again, the estimate's about $125 million in construction, 40% of which will be construction materials estimated, and of course you can do the math from there. The economic impact to our state, we hear this often, but I'd like for you just to hear it briefly if you could. It's about a $216 million impact to our economic activity in Georgia just during the construction. During the first 10 years of operating the museum, there will be some 1,150 jobs, 100 of which will be in the museum, another 1,000 or 1,050 related thereto around the opening of the museum. Estimated in the 10 years of operating, some $44 million of tax revenue to our state. You probably have the fiscal note in front of you that spreads out over 3 years the estimated construction and the what I consider a non-budget hitting a tax exemption of about $2 million. But I would certainly appreciate your favorable consideration. Again, all these attractions, if you look at them in totality around Centennial Park and what it does for our convention business and tourism business in Georgia is long since proven. In addition to that, there's are other museums that are coming because of the momentum we created, starting with the Georgia Aquarium. So I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions from members? I had one, and I'm trying to remember who are the co-signers. This bill is very bipartisanly brought, as I recall, isn't it?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It's about as bipartisan as you can get on a bill around this building these days, and certainly the chair of the Minority Caucus, Representative Smyrie, has signed it with me. Representative Tyrone Brooks, Representative Dubose Porter on the Republican side, everybody from Majority Leader to Appropriations Committee Chair, and numerous others have signed on.
That's an auspicious group right there, and inspirational just in of itself to see that sort of cooperation on something this important to our city. Are there any members of in our state, any members of our committee have any questions for the gentleman from North Fulton? I don't see any. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to pass.
I have a motion to pass by Vice Chair Sims. I have a second by Subcommittee Chair Peak. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, carries unanimously, and we'll report this to rules before 5 o'clock this evening. Thank you, sir, for being with our committee. We're also today very honored to have the Majority Leader from the our friends just across the hall in the Senate with us today. Chair recognizes the Honorable Leader Chip Rogers, former House member, too. I think is one of his finest curriculum vitae attributes, to tell us about your Senate Bill 83, please, Mr. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we are indeed friends, this year even more so than ever before. Senate Bill 83 is a measure I presented before your subcommittee, and I appreciate the favorable response we had there, and it simply corrects what I consider a wrong as it pertains to the statewide homestead exemption. This creates a doubling of the current homestead exemption if approved by the people who own the homes, and that is the voters. This is a referendum measure. The current homestead exemption was created in 1937 at $2,000, and today, in 2009, it's still $2,000. And the reason this is of significance is because when it was created, I firmly believe that the purpose was to exempt all homesteads from all property taxes, because in 1937, when it was created, the value of the average home in Georgia was less than $2,000. So if you own the average home when this was created in this state, you paid no property taxes. Because it has never been changed, that what once was a 100% exemption is now worth about 1.5% on the average home in Georgia. So this corrects that. It establishes a doubling from $2,000 to effectively $4,000 for homesteads in Georgia, if approved by the voters at the ballot box. And I believe most of the questions that arose in the subcommittee process have been answered, so that it doesn't have the impact of a $4,000 increase on the municipalities, and it does not have the impact of a $4,000 increase on certain local county governments who drew up their homestead exemptions in a different manner. This would only be $2,000 for each and every for every municipality and for every county.
The gentleman yield for a question
Yes.
or two. 17, is that Representative Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Leader, for offering this measure. I'm definitely in favor of it, but I have a question for you about it. Is this, just for clarification's sake, is this going to apply to all ad valorem tax? This is going to apply for the school tax that's paid, for the city taxes that are paid, for state portions? This is not just a state portion bill.
That is correct. Only on homestead.
Only on the homestead.
Correct.
So the homestead is okay, and that will apply to all ad valorem taxes.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you very much.
And it is indexed for inflation, which I know is a point of interest that you
It's
often
a
have.
wonderful idea. Someone should do that on income tax too.
I would support such a measure.
Actually, interestingly enough, it corrects what has essentially been kind of a glaring hole. At least we haven't found any law that had corrected it before your bill, where since 37, when it was promulgated initially, we had the 40% statewide adjustment, which then began to define this term called assessed value, which your bill talks about, as opposed to gross value. So in the assessed 40% component, actually, had it been interpreted another way, as a matter of law all these years, could have been a reduction, not an increase in the homestead exemption. So the gentleman has certainly helped us with some code update there, just to make sure we got the current terminology. And
Well, I have to give credit to
We're
former
great.
Representative Richard Royal, who pointed that out to me.
we're grateful for that. Vice Chairman Sims, you have a question?
Just a friendly question. I wonder, how is this going to be affected with House Bill 233 with the freeze? Is there going to be any? How will this adjust income for the counties at that point in time? Are they going to take a pretty big hit on that? Because if we freeze those values at the county level and we add another exemption down, how are how is that going to affect these counties?
Well, those are really two separate issues. I don't think
Understand.
they would impact each other. I would suggest that I can't imagine a scenario in any county where assessments are going to be going up the next 2 years. That may occur, but this, either way, if it went up or down, this would not impact that.
Chairman Scott, you have another inquiry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do apologize, but one more question, and this just help me understand what this means to, say, an average homeowner in Georgia, $130,000, $150,000 home. What would this mean to the average Georgian?
You're probably looking at an annual tax savings of $50 to $60 if approved by the voters for the first year, and of course it would increase by inflation going forward.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any more questions. What is the will of the committee? I have a motion do pass by Representative Talton, a second by Chairman Scott. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion do pass, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. We have one. Motion carries all to one, and we shall report this to the Rules Committee by 5 o'clock this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I shall now turn the chair over to the Vice Chairman Sims, and hope I can get him to call on me for House Bill 74.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, House Bill 74 we have referred to in the past as our omnibus bill, but effectively what it does is it brings into alignment on an annual basis, this being for 2009, all of the changes that are applicable to Georgia code from the IRC, or the Internal Revenue Code. There is a list of exclusions in the bill, which would typically be those things that were changes in the IRC that would have no effect on Georgia. An example in the past would have been Hurricane Katrina relief, since that storm never really got in our borders, but there was a good bit of tax legislation at the federal level that dealt with that. That would have been some of the provisions that were excluded from our bill. You should find a fiscal note in your files today, and you can see that it is about a $35 million tax savings to Georgia taxpayers of all different sorts. The largest issue, in my humble opinion, to small business is the adaptation of Section 179 limitations of now $250,000. That is a special depreciation treatment code section in the IRC that allows small and medium-sized businesses to write off in 1 year investments in business properties that they make, rather than having to amortize those, so that they can match the expense or the cost of it in the same year that it's paid, so that they can keep vital working capital in the businesses, which I think will be the fiber that may separate some from survival and failure. So we have adopted the IRC $250,000 limitation. Formerly it was $125,000. This past year it doubled, but there's a schedule of all of the different issues here. And Mr. Chairman, I would ask everyone's favorable consideration so that we can move this on. There is some urgency with this bill, unlike a lot of the deliberative debated bills that we have where there's policy changes, because most all of the tax preparers in the state are waiting on us to react so that they'll know how to complete everybody's tax returns accordingly, since it does look back retroactively into the last tax year. So with that, I'll be glad to yield for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions? Number 11.
I'll wait. He just,
You wait.
Chairman, just answer the questions.
22. Okay, it's that time. Okay, we have a motion do pass.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor of the bill, state by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes on. We'll carry this on to the Rules Committee.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'll take the chair back. Thank you to Chairman Sims. that concludes the scheduled business that we had today. But before we adjourn, I would like to make an announcement of some pleasant business. We have been invited, the whole committee has been invited out to dinner tomorrow night at a very special venue at the Cherokee Town Club, I think they call it, which is really a very nice evening. I just want to remind all the members of the committee that you and your spouse or significant other are all invited to be there with us, and hopefully it'll give us a chance to be around one another socially in a relaxed atmosphere for an hour or two at least, and break bread together, which I think is always good. But the whole committee's invited, and we're especially gratified that it's such a nice venue. So Elaine in the office, Ways and Means office, has got sort of a head count, and if you haven't already told her if you're going to be able to go or not, please let her know. I would encourage you all to go. We really do have a lot of fun at these and get a chance to know one another a lot better than we do under the strict rules here. So I hope everybody will have the opportunity to get out there. And with that, no further business coming from the committee. Thank you very much for being here today, and we stand adjourned.